Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA episode 248. I am Brendan. UFC 287, Pereira versus Adesanya, numero dos. All right, that just took place. We're going to cover the main card here. We're going to break down all the fights on the main card. If you're looking for the prelims, it'll be in the next video. Real quick before we get started, if you like this stuff, you like this channel, if you like MMA, please subscribe so you know the next videos come out. I would really appreciate it. Let's get started. If you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, timestamps are down below. Israel Adesanya getting his goddamn belt back. Hell yes. Yes, this things are right in the world, okay? I know I'm a little overly excited about this. It's more it feels justified to me, right? And I've had to justify why I thought Adesanya would win in the rematch. I'd have to talk about it. Just feels right. He was supposed to win the first time. He won this time. Things are right with the world. Okay, let's talk about how this fight went down, and we'll talk about the ending. A little bit of disagreement I had with the scorecard, the one round, and then also with my friend. We were talking about it, and different opinion. Let me know what you guys thought. Fight started out really, really tentative. In fact, the first round was kind of boring. So this was not a super long fight. So honestly, this card was fantastic, start to finish. If you did not buy the pay-per-view and you're waiting for it to come out, I don't know. This might be the one. Shell out the money and just watch it. Find some place to go watch it. See a friend who recorded it or who's got it. Look for it. This one is definitely worth going to see. This one, start to finish, was fantastic. Leg kicks from both guys landing, except for the first round of this fight. Really tentative, the way that this fight started out. Izzy was landing with more variety, landing more to the body as well with his kicks. Izzy was landing the left hook once in a while. It was a boring round. The leg kicks from Pereira did more damage, in my opinion. He also landed more shots. So if you look at the scorecards here, all three judges gave the first round to Adesanya. I disagree. And this is coming again. I thought Adesanya was going to win this. I was rooting for him in this. Bias up front. I was happy that he won. I'm a fan of his. I don't think he won that first round. You can see here on the stats, he only landed 15 to Pereira's 20, and a lot of those were leg kicks. And I think I was telling my friend about it. I was like, I bet you they're not going to score those leg kicks. He scored 16 leg kicks, hard leg kicks, and that did take a toll on Adesanya. You saw it in the second round. We saw what happened before the knockout happened. The left kicks were coming in from Izzy, and the body shot was looking really good. He was having a much better round. Alex was in tight, swinging hard. Izzy landing well in there too. So what happened was, this happened earlier in the fight. Well, let's finish it because it'll make sense when I talk about it. So there was a nice right hand from Izzy at one point, but Pereira was more conservative now, maybe trying to save some energy. I saw that when he did get in his face, he backed off voluntarily. There was a nice jab from Pereira. He did a good job landing the damage when he could, especially with those low kicks, but Izzy kept staying in his face. There's a nice combo from Izzy, landing 2 to the body and then going up top and landing 2 upstairs. Beautiful stuff. And then Pereira lands another leg kick. It appears to bother Izzy, who backs up to the fence, shells up, defends really well against two hooks and then a knee, goes down, moves down to the right and comes over the top with the right hand. Very similar to what happened in the first round of the first fight when he rocked Pereira in the end of the first round. Now, this is where the disagreement comes from. I'm really curious as to what your guys' opinions are. What do you think happened here? Do you think it was sheer luck? Do you think Izzy was about to go out and he just threw a Hail Mary and got the finish? Do you think that he completely planned it? Is it somewhere in the middle? Here's my opinion, and this is what I saw. Based off what I saw from the first fight and this one, when Pereira gets somebody in his other fights in the UFC, when he gets somebody against the fence, he unloads. He feels comfortable. He feels confident. He starts to unload and he lets go. It happened twice earlier in this fight and the second time. So in that second round, remember, he pushed in on Adesanya, started to unload on him, and Adesanya landed a nice right hand on the exit. This was earlier in the round. So it's not, and the thing is, Adesanya did the thing. He shelled up. He had a really high, tight shell, and he did the same thing to exit. And remember, in the first fight, that's exactly what happened in the first round. Pereira started to a little open up and unload at the end of the round, and he paid for it. And what happens here? History repeats itself. Pereira just feels so confident. He goes in there with his chin up, his hands down, starts to unload on you, and Adesanya looked for an opening and made him pay. So I think it's a little bit of both. I know that's the cop-out answer, but I really do think that Adesanya, he took that leg kick, realized, like, hey, if we keep playing this game, my leg is going to be compromised. I'm not going to be able to move as well. Let's see if I can get an opening by shelling up against the fence again, because I did land earlier. So let's see if I can do this again. And he does it, and it landed perfect, and he knocked him right the fuck out, follows down and follows up with a hammer fist that really put, like, he was hurt bad. It's great finish from Adesanya. Incredible fight, incredible performance by him. It was, like I said, I feel like all things are right in the world, and he had a positive message afterwards, which is good to see. I've always liked the guy. I really have. I thought there was a little bit too much hype coming in on him. But then when he had that fight with Anderson Silva, I thought he looked great, even though he lost a round in there. But I thought he looked great for that. The fights that he's had since then, like, he hasn't been the most entertaining every single time, but his character is really good. The way that he's able to dominate for the most part outside of the Whitaker fight. The second Whitaker fight was pretty close. But Adesanya has just been able to hold down this division and do a great job. He's the first UFC middleweight champion in history to regain his belt after he lost it. So becoming the very first two-time middleweight champion in the UFC. No one has ever done that before. Like I said, I'm happy. I'm glad that he got the win. I think that this is better for the division overall. I think Pereira either would abandon the division. There's lots of talk about him going up a weight class. I think he would immediately lose to a lot of the contenders who have a monicum of wrestling ability. Listen, I don't think Pereira is a horrible fighter. One of the things that irks me the most is when an outsider comes into the UFC, right? A new guy, right? And he gets this big push, either promotional or publicity-wise. There's this big push behind him, and he gets to skip levels, right? You got to pay your dues. Now, if you've had a really long career, like you're 30 fights in your career, and you're coming over from another organization or something like that, now that's the exception. But most of these fighters who come from another sport or come in with a ton of hype on them, or, a storyline. We'll talk about that when we get to the opener of this with the 19-year-old. And they come in and they're the next hot thing. And they get to skip levels, right? And then they get tailor-picked matchups. A little bit of McGregor, had a little bit of this. Quite a bit of it if you want to be real. But, some of that was happenstance early before he was really famous. And then, they were trying to set him up for a title fight. So they kind of, gave him an easier path in avoiding some of the wrestlers. But not a lot of 145ers could hold him down, just to be honest. He's so big. So when Alex Pereira comes in and the talk is, oh, this is the last guy to knock out Izzy, and this is the last guy to do this to Izzy, and oh man, look how good he is, and then we feed him some guys. And we don't challenge. He doesn't have to face. Look at this. This is a really good example of what I'm talking about here. Who didn't he fight? He didn't fight Cannonier. Not a grappler necessarily, but tough customer. Didn't fight Marvin Vettori, who is known to be a tough guy and a grappler when he needs to be. He didn't fight Whitaker, one of the best grapplers in the division, also tough, and he hits hard. Probably the best. He's the best guy in this division, not named Israel Adesanya, and I wouldn't mind seeing them fight for a third time. Paulo Costa, strike and hang in there with the best of them. That probably would have been an entertaining fight while it lasted, but he's got really good cardio. Let's see. I'm interested to see it, and he's got a good chin. Dricus du Plessis, he's new. He entered the rankings after Pereira made it in here, so that's against her. He did beat Sean Strickland, a striker who's not into grappling. Derek Brunson, grappler, didn't have to face him. Roman Dolidze's new. Didn't have to fight Jack Hermanson, a grappler, again. And Kelvin Gastelum. I think Kelvin Gastelum can fuck him up. I think if Pereira could make weight again and he fought Kelvin Gastelum, I think Gastelum is his kryptonite. Good chin, great cardio, decent, if not great hands, and great grappling. Yeah, I think he could mess him up. But the thing is, we don't know any of this stuff because he didn't have to fight any of these tests. And it's unfortunate because it takes away from what I think he did in the UFC. I think him beating Adesanya would have been more impressive if he worked his way up the division and beat a couple contenders in the process. Like beating Sean Strickland, fine, but then put him against the Robert Whittaker, put him against the Marvin Vettori, put him against Paulo Costa, give him another contender, one more guy, but Adesanya called out for it. So it's partly on him. It's not just the promotion, but, obviously the promotion has to let things, or they are the ultimate decider, and they let him go forward. I think him going up to 205 makes more sense than having him hang around the division. If he wants to hang around, does he think he could get another title shot? But I think he's lost. I think he loses again if he gets another title shot. We saw it in the first fight. I think we saw it here. I think he's got a lot of weaknesses, and that weight cut is not going to be kind to him as he gets a little bit longer in his career and older. So I think him going up a weight class makes more sense, and I think he would do. Here's the other thing. I think that at 205, he has more interesting fights, right? Just throw it out here. Dominic Reyes, not known for his grappling. Ryan Spann, he can grapple, but, mainly he's going to go in there and bang. Paul Craig, grappler. Maybe don't put him against him. Ozdemir, striker. Walker, striker. Krylov, striker. Anthony Smith, a little bit of both, all-rounder, but, he strikes a lot. Rakic, striker. Jan Blachowicz, striker. Magomed Ankalaev, there's your grappler. Yuri Prohashka, a little bit of everything, but mainly a striker, and Jamal Hill, the champion, a striker. So you've got a ton of really good matchups for him in here. That would be fun. People who about his size, maybe even smaller than him still. I think it makes more sense. He could fight more often with less weight cut. And I think he matches up well with a lot of these guys here because of his striking ability. I think in the middleweight division that these guys are more technically sound than the light heavyweights, and I think the light heavyweights are ripe for the picking. Let's put it that way. From now on, I won't necessarily root against Alex, but let's see how he recovers from this. Let's see where they put him, and let's see where he fights going forward. As far as Adesanya, I don't know who he fights next, to be honest. You probably don't want to see him against Vettori for a third time. Cannonier doesn't make sense. Costa, again, doesn't make sense. Dricus du Plessis, honestly, at number 6 here, that might make the most sense. He's a new face. He's fun. He's exciting. He'll come right at you. And I think he'll make it exciting. So, Derek Brunson's already had a shot. Dolidze might make it fun, but he just lost, so he's got to come back and get an actual win here. Brendan Allen, I think, with a couple wins, could make a statement and make some noise and get the title shot. So I don't know what's next for Adesanya, to be honest with you. Maybe put him in a show. Give him another job outside of that. Great win for him, though. I'm happy for Izzy. Congratulations. That is fantastic. All right, Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. Kind of what we were expecting, right? A lot of the people who asked me about this fight, a lot of people who were talking about this, shout out John if you're watching this, and then Hassam, obviously. A lot of people, we talked about this and we thought it's going to go to the ground. Burns is going to dominate him. He's just going to grapple him and take him down. Didn't really happen that much in the first round. And here's we'll talk about it and go round by round here. But this fight had a little bit of what I thought it was going to be, and I think it might have given Masvidal his best chance to win, and he just couldn't get the job done. Tentative start to the fight, trading leg kicks. It looked kind of weird. Neither guy was really aggressive or committing to anything early on. Burns was trying to use that lead left hook and go for feint, so he would feint the takedown, do the level change, and then he was trying to duck down and then come over the top with that left hook. And, it did land. He tried it many times, and it was landing quite a bit as the fight went on, but early he was missing with it. Burns landed a right hand like Usman did that put Masvidal out, and Masvidal just smiled at him. He took a lot of those in this fight. Masvidal with a really nice combo, ending with a hard running low kick. Burns was just swinging like he doesn't want a takedown. I thought it was strange, but that's how he was fighting in this first round. Burns was not getting in range enough. Masvidal was making him pay with those low kicks and some decent straights. Burns with a nice counter right, works his way to a takedown right at the end of the round. The round was hard to score. I thought it was razor thin, but I gave it to Masvidal. Now, here's why. Striking numbers in favor of Masvidal. Now, mind you, if it's the first time you've ever watched me or listened to me talk, thank you. Thank you for coming here. I appreciate you. But I don't score these after I look at the striking numbers, okay? I don't look at the striking numbers and then use that information because judges don't have that information. So I watch it live. I watch it as if, or as close to, as if I am a judge. Obviously, I'm not ringside, and I have more view of the fight than they do. But I try to judge it as earnestly as I can, and I felt like Masvidal landed the better strikes in this first round. I felt like he did more damage, and that takedown was virtually, he had 6 seconds of control time, Burns did, and it just wasn't enough. So I thought that Masvidal did enough damage in this round to take the first round. So it was interesting to me going forward because, I thought, hey, this is Masvidal's best chance here if we get in a fight like this. Although he has come on the wrong end of a lot of split decisions. Burns came out super aggressive in the second round, pressuring and going right for the takedown immediately. So, right for the takedown immediately. That's redundant. You got the double leg and a slam. There was back up with 2 minutes left. Burns with the body lock and dragging him back down. He's back up with a minute left, and then this was Burns' round. There wasn't a ton of striking. Burns was up on the striking 7-5, but really it was a control round. There's 4 minutes of control time. He took him down, held him down. This is how I thought the fight was going to go, and this is how a lot of us thought the fight was going to go. Burns just banked around there. So I had it 19-19 going to the third, and then Jorge back to the kick that he was using. Burns was able to land that right hand again. Masvidal was landing a load of kicks to the legs and then spinning kick to the body. It was really nice. Honestly, up to this point, it felt like Masvidal was kind of hanging in there with him. It was going to be close, going down to the wire, but then Burns just started landing the lead left hook, big right hand. He rocked George a couple times. Big shots, put him against the fence. Burns got the takedown with 1:10 left, and that was the rest of the round. 29-28 for Burns, in my opinion, and Masvidal calls it quits. He was up there in that last round, 22-19, but it wasn't even about the numbers. It was the kind of strikes that he was landing. It obviously outstruck him, did way more damage. Just look at the scorecards here. Only one judge, Eric Colon, given the first round to Masvidal. The other two, Christopher Lee and David Torelli. Oh boy, giving it to Gilbert Burns. It was a close round. Like I said, it was razor thin in my opinion. If you scored that takedown as meaning something, like you felt like there was some damage from it, or that control time meant something to you, which it didn't to me, or you felt like everything was even, it was just about control, then you gave it to Burns. Understandable. Masvidal retiring. Masvidal has had a pretty good career. Okay. He had some fights in Bodog and stuff. Let's just go over some of the highlights real quick. I don't want to make this video too long. Again, bias up front. I'm not the biggest Jorge Masvidal fan. All right, I missed the Kimbo Slice wave. I knew Kimbo Slice, but I was never a fan of Masvidal. I didn't know him, right? And then when he came to the UFC eventually, so during his time here in Strikeforce, in the initial Strikeforce run, I was overseas, and I was overseas, and I wasn't able to watch a lot of fights when I was over there, so there was a little gap in my fandom. And then by the time he was coming back, and I started watching the UFC again, I wasn't watching Strikeforce at this time. So my real first time watching him again was against Tim Means. And I remember watching that fight. Him getting the good, like a decent win there. Submitting Michael Chiesa was impressive because the whole talk was Michael Chiesa's this great grappler, and he came in there. And then he loses the fight to Rustam Khabilov, who had a really interesting UFC career. We don't have to talk about that now. I've reviewed it earlier with my friend. And he beats Pat Healy. That's a great win back in 2014. Darren Cruikshank was supposed to be the next big thing. He beats him. James Krause, the coach now, great win over him. And then he loses a split decision to Al Iaquinta. I remember, I don't know if I watched this one. So back then, I wasn't watching every single fight that came out. I did catch most of them. It's like every so often I would miss one. And I think this was one of the ones that I happened to miss. And Demetrius Johnson versus Chris Carriasso. I should have watched that. Anyway, no, I did watch it because this is the one where no, that wasn't that one. It was Mendez versus Lamas. Maybe I did miss it. Anyway, Al Iaquinta was yelling at the crowd after this one, like, "Don't boo me, fuck you." I remember that. There was some discrepancies there. A lot of people thought Masvidal should have won. And he goes out, beats Cesar Ferreira. That's a great win. He knocked him out. That was fantastic. And then he loses 2 split decisions to Benson Henderson and Lorenz Larkin. Benson Henderson, no slouch, obviously the former champion, and losing to him is no big deal, in my opinion. And he was also fighting at 155 at this point. So then eventually he goes up a weight class, but he beats Ross Pearson, Jake Ellenberger, and Donald Cerrone at 170. I know he beat Donald Cerrone at 170. Then he loses another split decision to Damian Maia. Again, he has this happen a lot to him where he just doesn't do the extra thing to make sure that he gets the win. And then he loses a convincing decision to Stephen Thompson. Like, he just absolutely gets tooled by him. Then he has that knockout win over Darren Till, and then the career saver against Ben Askren that put him in a position to fight for a title after beating Nate Diaz for whatever reason, the BMF belt, that whole crap that they put together. Then the recent history, 2 losses to Kamaru Usman in title shots I didn't feel like he deserved in the first place. He stepped in on short notice, and he stepped in because oh no, what the heck? Why can't I remember his name? What is wrong with me? Leon Edwards, good grief. Because Leon Edwards couldn't fight Kamaru Usman because it was during the pandemic, he couldn't come over here, so somebody had to step up, and Jorge Masvidal did. And then Jorge Masvidal said, I could beat that guy, and then he got a shot, and then he got knocked out. And then he gets dominated by Colby Covington, and then pretty much taken to school by Gilbert Burns here. So he ends his career, his long and illustrious career, I remind you, he had 52 fights. That is a ton. He's fought for 20 years. It's an incredible career for him. Whether or not I'm a fan, that doesn't matter. Anybody who can extend their career that long and fight for that long, especially even just like at the highest level here, looking at Strikeforce Playboy Mansion in 2007, we're talking, he was fighting, I think, professionally at the same time. He was very young, right? He was fighting at the same time as Andrei Arlovsky, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing you just don't. You just don't do. People don't do that stuff. It's really rare for that to happen, especially in the lighter weight classes. And then at the tail end of his career, getting those 2 title shots, whether or not he deserved them, I know that. I don't think he deserved them either, but he got them. Right? That just doesn't hurt. It doesn't happen. It's unheard of. It's really cool for him to do that. And congratulations on an amazing career. I think he'll go down as one of the greats who never got the title. I don't think he was one of the greats. It's not my opinion. I don't feel it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe during that time in his career when I wasn't watching as much, maybe I missed out on his best fights. But I just don't think he ever possessed the abilities or the wherewithal to do that kind of stuff. Good fight. Good fight. Moving on here. Pick it up a little bit, huh? Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. So the story coming to this one was Yanez's boxing versus Rob Font's boxing. It was going to be really good, and that's what it turned out to be. Exactly that. It was fantastic. Rob Font, amazing fight. Again, if you're watching this for whatever reason, you didn't watch the pay-per-view, this fight's worth watching. It really is. It was fantastic. Rob Font landed a big right hand immediately. Font landing a jab. Yanez was countering with the right and some front kicks to the leg. Yanez with a really snappy jab as well. Really started busting up the left eye of Font. Font was landing a huge jab, giving Yanez some pause. Then Yanez countering. It's really back and forth. Nice uppercuts from Font, rocking Yanez, following up with a big shot. Then right up top, then the left. It's like, so he was like, oh man, just so many big shots. Font was unloading, using that jab and landing a huge right hand that dropped Yanez. Wow, what a fucking finish. And then if you look at that right hand, it was so bad. He held the back of Yanez's neck and just unloaded with this like scooping hook over. Oh my God, this is crazy right hand and just put him right out and followed up. Yanez was upset about something. I don't know if he was mad at the ref or mad at himself. He definitely shouldn't be mad at the ref. He was out. That was a great win for Rob Font. Way to come back from a disappointing loss to Marlon Vera in a fight that he was, had plenty of success. Great win for Rob Font. That was a fun fight to watch. Absolutely go watch that one if you didn't. 10 out of 10 recommend. Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. All right, so again, if you know me, if you've been watching me, like one of my favorite fighters is Justin Gaethje. Actually, not one of he's my favorite active fighter. And I keep forgetting about it, but Kevin Holland is got to be my second favorite. He's just so much fun to watch. His attitude leading up to it, his charisma, his fighting style, the way that he gets finishes, everything about him is just fantastic. I love Kevin Holland. Love watching him fight. He's just a fun dude. Awesome stuff. Nice check left hook from Holland, and Santiago was landing some low kicks. Panzinibbio was landing the low kick repeatedly inside and outside. Holland was finding some success with his own low kicks and that check hook of his. Not too many jabs, though. Even though that could have been, he did throw a couple and they were successful because he's got that long reach, but he just didn't use it very much. Not in the first round. Holland was landing his best strikes so far with 3 low kicks and a great hook to follow. Holland was staying tall, avoiding Santiago's punches. In the middle of this first fucking round, Holland goes, "Hey, do you smell weed?" And then the commentary team says, they start laughing about it, and they're like, "It does smell like weed in here." The fact that this fucking guy says that, that's so funny. Anyway, Santiago caught a kick, and then Holland, while his foot was up in the air, lands this huge back fist. I think it was a right back fist, yeah. So lands this huge back fist that dropped Ponzinibbio. Holland just stole that round. He also outlanded him, but if you didn't think that back fist dropped him, maybe you could count some of those Ponzinibbio things and give it to him, but there's no way. I gave it to Holland. 10-9 for sure. If you look at the striking numbers, he was out in front as well, 29-13, mixing it up pretty good. Apparently he landed more leg kicks. I just didn't feel like his had the same pop that Ponzinibbio's did. Second round here, the kicks from Santiago were really strong. He landed a nice right hand as he darted in. Holland was more active in this round, landing some good kicks of his own, staying on the attack, pressuring him really good this round. Santiago landed a great hook. Then Holland comes back and lands 3 freaking rights. Great punishing right hands. Holland had more volume that round, and he was up 20-18, in my opinion. Landing less strikes apparently this round, 23-15, but I felt like he landed more upstairs. He did. He landed 11 instead of the 7. I just felt like he did more in this round than he did in the first round, and made it more, put more distance between him and Ponzinibbio. Last round here, Holland landing a low kick, hurting Santiago pretty bad. Holland landed a left hook and dropped him. Santiago dropped face first, and this fight is stopped. Now, Dan Miragliotta with a slightly early stoppage here. I understand why it was stopped, because Ponzinibbio fell face first and bounced off the canvas a little bit, but he was still with it, and Holland landed one punch, and I totally get stopping it, especially when you're doing it live and all that's happening immediately. Absolutely stop the fight. Totally understand. But if he had let one more punch go, and because Ponzinibbio was pissed, he felt like he was still there. And if you watch on the replay, he clearly was. He was going to get right back up, or he was going to try and get right back up. Obviously, because Holland backed off, he got right back up. So it's one of those ones where you don't like to see it. You like to see at least one more punch in there just to be definitive. And it was in the third round. So my friend Hassan was not arguing with me, but his argument was, it was the third round in a fight that he was most likely losing, and he got hit real bad, and there was only half the round left. Situationally, is that okay? Does that make it okay? I've never been a fan of situational awareness changing how you referee a fight. The end of the round, the beginning of the round, that kind of stuff. I've gone back and forth on that in the past, where obviously if there's only 10 seconds left and you see that there's a guy throwing punches, are you going to stop it really when there's 2 seconds left? Maybe maybe that is kind of the situational awareness I'm okay with. In a championship fight, do you think you should ref it different? I'm not a fan of that stuff. I think it was a really great win for Holland. And then he called out Masvidal, but, as Masvidal retired, I guess Kevin Holland does not have a dance partner as of yet. Dude, Holland's really good. He is. He's got the skills. He's got the voice. He's got like I said, he's got the charisma. He's got the attitude. He's got everything. I think this I think this guy, he's got what it takes to not only be champion, but to be a charismatic, fan favorite. And if he never becomes champion, I still think he'll be one of those guys who people will be excited to watch him fight every time he goes out. I am already. I have been since the first time I watched him fight in the Contender Series. He's so much fucking fun to watch, and I love watching him fight, man. Like I said, he's probably my favorite fighter not named Justin Cagey. All right, Raul Rosas Jr. Taking on Christian Rodriguez. What happens when the hype train gets derailed? This is what happens. So, I don't want to be too hard on the kid. It's not his fault, right? It's the UFC's fault. It's the UFC's fault for putting these people out there like the Sage Northcutts. I don't think Rosas Jr. is the Sage Northcutt, right? I think he has more potential. Maybe not. Northcutt looks strong. He looked like a good striker. It's hard to tell. Let's talk about the fight first, and then we'll break it down. Then we'll go over implications, since this is the last fight we're going to talk about here. Rosas ran across and got the takedown immediately to start this fight. First round, Rodriguez was trying to stop the takedowns, and he landed an elbow in tight, but Rosas was finally able to get the takedown with 3 minutes and 40 seconds left in the round. Christian reversed position and got back on top, but then Rosas got the body lock and held onto it and jumped to get the back and put the body triangle in. And there was a ton of rear naked choke attempts in this first round as Rosas was on the back. He had 4 minutes of control time here. I said, this is what I wrote down. The rear naked choke attempts tonight, because on the prelims this happened as well. Rodriguez definitely lost this round, and it goes to Rosas for sure. Let's see how his cardio holds up. And that was the story of the fight. His cardio did not hold up, okay? He did not have the Hamzat energy coming out here like a banshee and then being able to hold up with it for 3 rounds like he did against Gilbert Burns. He did not have that. Rosas was right in on the takedown attempt again, but Christian defended it in the second round. Christian landed a huge knee, a good elbow. Rosas was slowing down, but he did get the body lock again. Christian reversed it, got on top, got north-south. Rodriguez did a good job floating on top, landing elbows when he could. Rodriguez got the back. Now he got the body triangle in. Rodriguez won that round by a lot. Rosas is very sloppy. It'll show more in the third round, but if you do watch this fight, which I do recommend, if you watch the second round, you see it start to take place, but the third round's where the Rosas landed 0 strikes in that second round, and he had almost no control time, no real effective control time, to be honest. Rodriguez had a ton of it, 337. That was his round. I had it 19-19 going into the third. Rodriguez was able to land 3 or 4 right hands, finding his range. Rosas was still trying big explosive movements. Rosas was like flying knees and stupid shit. Rosas failed on a takedown again. Christian defended another takedown. Rosas was just giving up positions as he flailed around on the ground like a fish. This is where it really got sloppy. Rodriguez took the mount, laying out damage, took the back, took the body lock, and just landing elbows from that position. And then Christian let him up just to punish him some more. He did take 2 punches from him because he let them up, but he landed 23 of his own during this whole round. 29-28, and there goes the hype train. So let's talk about that real quick. And then we'll get going here. It's not Rosas. It's not his fault. Okay? He's 19 years old. He's been given this, or 18 years old? 18 years old, sorry. He's 18 years old. He's been given this opportunity that, how could you turn down? Getting signed to the UFC when you're 17 years old, having your first fight when you're 18, it's just crazy. And how could you turn it down? You could. But when it comes to pushing people like this, we've seen it happen in the past. They run into a wall, and then what happens? They get back in there too soon. They don't make enough changes. We saw it with Chase. Chase Hooper is a great example. Again, I don't think Rosas Jr. is a Chase Hooper. He doesn't get hit as much as Hooper does, or hasn't yet. But Chase Hooper, same thing. Super young. He had his fight, first win in the UFC when he was 20 years old. He just takes so much damage. And he's like 23 or 24 years old, and he's taken a ton of damage already. What do you think is going to happen to this guy if they put him in there again 6 months from now? From what I've seen in the past, and what I saw in this fight, and the fights in the past, his previous fights involved with the UFC, I think it would make sense for him to wait and sit out for about a year. And I know he wants to be the youngest UFC champion. He wants to be the future of this division. Listen, those two things both can happen, but one of those probably is more likely than the other. Being the future of the division is probably more likely than being the youngest UFC champion. He's in a division at bantamweight that his best chance to be the division champion would be aging up as the other guys age out just at the right time. Because you got to imagine, look at this bantamweight division. Let's say Sterling does leave, right? Let's say Sterling goes up a weight class. And let's say that Henry Cejudo doesn't stick around. Okay? Merab Dvalishvili. Was there anything about this fight that says Rosas is ready for Merab Dvalishvili? No. And listen, I wouldn't be comparing him to the best in the division if that wasn't what he was calling out for. He was calling out. He said, I want to fight someone in the top 15. I'm ready to go. Let's go now. That's what he said. Okay, I'm using his words. I'm not putting undue pressure or undue comparisons on this kid. I'm not doing that. He brought it on himself. So now we're just going to analyze it. I'm not necessarily going to criticize him. Let's just analyze it. Let's see what would happen. Merab Dvalishvili. Do you think anything that Rosas Jr. does could do anything to Dvalishvili? To anything? No. No, not a single thing. No cardio. Striking is mediocre, and his grappling, which is good, is probably not as good as Dvalishvili's. And even if it was, do you think he'd be able to keep up with him? No. Absolutely demolished. Sean O'Malley. Do you think he could hang with Sean O'Malley on the feet? Do you think he could last long enough in there or get him down and before he got tired? Corey Sandhagen, based off what we saw, do you think he has anything for Corey Sandhagen? Petr Yan, do you think he could take down Petr Yan? Marlon Vera, do you think he could do anything to Marlon Vera? Take him down and hold him down for 3 rounds long enough to not get head kicked into oblivion? Rob Font, who we just saw fight. Dominic Cruz, I still think, beats this kid. Song Yadong, Pedro Munoz knocks him out. Ricky out-grapples him. Umar Nurmagomedov outstrikes, out-grapple if he wanted to. I'm telling you guys. Chris Gutierrez kicks the shit out of his legs, and he probably doesn't walk right anymore. This is the fight that he was asking for after this. He said, I'm ready for the top 15. I want to be the champion. I said what I'm trying to get across here is that all of these guys would have to age out, and Sean O'Malley's not old. Petr Yan's not super old either. Corey Sandhagen, a little older, but not very. Marlon Vera's probably a little bit older. Rob Font, Dominic Cruz is definitely older. Some of these guys aren't going anywhere. Umar Nurmagomedov's not going anywhere. Saeed Nurmagomedov's not going anywhere. These guys aren't going anywhere. So he's going to have to match up skill for skill. Merab Dvalishvili, I think, has got quite a bit of years. And this is the thing. If he wants to be the youngest UFC champion, he's got to do it in like less than 3 years. So do I think any of these guys are going to age out in 3 years and he's going to backfill and get the championship in 3 years? No, I just don't. I don't see him closing that skill gap in 3 years based off what I've seen. Now, what could happen in 6 years? Do I see him being able to close the gap in 6 years? Possibly. There's no way to know for sure, but he could do that. And in 6 years, a lot of these guys are going to be hitting 30 or already going to be in their mid to late 30s. Now that's a good time. So you want to be the future of the division. 6 years from now, he's still just 24 years old. He'll only be 24, guys. And if he fights smart, doesn't have a ton of damage, he could extend his career well into his 30s. If he did that, he could extend his career well into his 30s and be a top flight contender for upwards of 10 years, if not more. So one of the statements he said, being the future of the division, I think is much more realistic and arguably the only one that's possible. Being the youngest champion in the UFC takes a lot of things to happen. Obviously, you have to have tremendous skill. You have to be young, right? Obviously. And the division has to be just right for you to make your move. It is what it is. I don't want to be too down, be such a downer on this kid, but you know, part of this kind of like irked me, seeing him, you know, rub me the wrong way. Seeing him on the main card, seeing him on the pay-per-view. You know, if this was a fight night, a main card versus the prelims, like, does that matter as much? Nah, probably not. But he was on the pay-per-view, guys, instead of Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. Come on. For what? And rightfully so. Chris Curtis called it out. He's like, really? You're going to bump me for this 18-year-old kid who has fought nobody in the UFC? It's not, this is not, and if this fight was in Mexico City, possibly. You get a crazy pop. Everybody's going to be in there. That crowd's going to go nuts for him. Comes in with the traditional hat and the mariachi music. Oh, my God. The amount of excitement and hype that kid would get in Mexico. But this is in Florida, which, you know, okay, has a large, you know, Hispanic community, but not a large Mexican community. And I don't know if you know this about different cultures, but they don't all necessarily just root for them because they speak the same language. That's not how any of this works. It's not like I instantly root for British people because we happen to speak English. That's not how this shit works, guys. So I think if he dials it back, has more control and a good handler, we won't end up with a Sage Northcutt situation here. Hopefully, maybe we'll end up with a Rory McDonald situation, although I would argue that could have gone better with the way that his career ended. But that's the thing is, Rory McDonald came in hot, and he did really good for himself. Fought for a title. But he just took so much damage. He was out really young because he took so much damage. You don't often get a John Jones is the only one that I can think of who came in that young. Andrei Arlovsky's a good example, but these are bigger guys. You really don't see this in the shorter weight classes, smaller weight classes, smaller division. So anyway, if you guys made it this far through this rambling, fucking awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, please. It does help me out, and it would mean that you would know when the next video is coming out. I'd really appreciate it if you did that. Thank you so much. Like I said, if this is the only video you watch this weekend, thank you for spending time here. It means a lot to me. It really does. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought about the fights, breakdowns, my breakdown, my opinions. Do you agree with them, disagree with them? If you're looking for the prelims, it's in the next video. All right, I'll put that up tomorrow. So I appreciate y'all. Happy Easter. Love y'all.